there, everybody. Week 14 timeline. As the timeline progresses throughout history, now we're kind of honing in on our history here in the United States. So now it's kind of interesting because we're consolidating events, like separate events that happened closer together instead of these huge eras of history. I thought that was kind of interesting. So hopefully it'll make it easier for the kids because these are things that we've learned about, well, especially in my writing class. This is American history that we've been talking about, and then one of our other classes that we take at home. But anyway, so the Stamp Act, attacks on tea, and the Boston Tea Party. The Battle of Lexington begins the Revolutionary War, April 19th, 1775. The Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. George Washington. Cornwallis surrenders at Yorktown. The Constitution becomes law, 1789. The French Revolution, the Battle of Waterloo, ends the Napoleonic Wars. So that's it. So I'll explain them now. Okay, so you've got the Stamp Act and attacks on tea. This was the Stamp Act that the British imposed on the British colonists here in America. And then they also imposed a Tea Act, which forced the colonists to basically help fund the French and Indian War. And they said no taxation without representation. And they had a revolution, a small revolution, which was dressing up as Indians and dumping the tea over the side of the ships. Then we've got the Battle of Lexington. This is Paul Revere. He and William Dawes are riding their horses out to Concord to warn Samuel Adams and John Hancock that the British indeed are coming to Concord because they found out there's this arsenal of weapons that they want to destroy, or, well, probably just steal and use for themselves. And so there was a battle at Lexington Green. We just wrote about this in our U.S. History IEW writing class, where the colonists found out they were coming, so they showed up out of their farms with just their regular clothes. 70 of them showed up, 700 redcoats showed up. I don't know how, but only 8 or 9 Americans died. We weren't quite Americans yet, colonists. Died. I'm surprised there weren't more. But that's what began the Revolutionary War, and that was April 19th, 1775. The kids should remember that. And then we're going to declare our independence from Britain, and of course that happens July 4th, 1776. Then we have our first president. So here he is putting his hand on the Bible and swearing an oath to be a good president and all that good stuff. And he's the first one. Easy peasy. Then Cornwallis. So General Cornwallis was the British general who finally ended up having to surrender at Yorktown, which was in Virginia. That was the final battle of the American Revolution. And so interesting, that happens after the Declaration of Independence. And then after Cornwallis surrenders, then in 1789, we actually have the Constitution, which becomes law. So this is the document. And then we've got the French Revolution. They were inspired by the American Revolution. Guess what that is? The guillotine. And that would take a year to explain, I'm sure. And then the Battle of Waterloo. So Napoleon was very powerful in France, and he was taking all these countries into his Grand Empire. I think it was the Grand Empire. Yeah. And so he was just knocking them out and bringing them in to his empire. And then he ends up being exiled to this, they take him out of Russia, send him to this little island. 9 months later, he escapes. He comes home, and he builds an army real quick and fights France and some other countries like England and Prussia. And that last battle was called the Battle of Waterloo, which happened to be in Belgium. I didn't know that till I read the back of my timeline card. And so that is the battle that ends the Napoleonic Wars. He's exiled again, this time to another island, and that's the end of Napoleon. So, I'll just do it really quick again. The Stamp Act attacks on tea and the Boston Tea Party. The Battle of Lexington begins the Revolutionary War. April 19th, 1776. The Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. George Washington. Cornwallis surrenders at Yorktown. The Constitution becomes law, 1789. The French Revolution and the Battle of Waterloo ends the Napoleonic Wars.